Hello and welcome to the iRacing Grand Prix Championship here at Spa-Francorchamps circuit. I'm Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Marco Barbanera with Scott Newton on the cameras broadcasting live on Apex Racing TV. And Marco, earlier on we saw the real life F1 at one of the best circuits in the world, and I think this circuit certainly complements it very well. Another absolutely legendary circuit.
Hello Sam, yes, you are absolutely right. Hello everyone. Spa-Francorchamps, fantastic track. We had a fantastic WCS race yesterday. I'm hoping for more of the same today. Little bit different weather compared to yesterday, because today it's overcast. We have fairly low track temperature, so it's going to help these guys with the tire wear just a bit. Of course, we have to remember this is a full distance race, so it is going to be key to make those tires last, especially if you want to go for a one-stopper. Otherwise, you have to go for a two-stop strategy. Yesterday, the two-stopper was a bit quicker, but we know with the cooler track temperature, the one-stopper might be a viable alternative for today, Sam.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what can we learn from yesterday's event? And of course, you were commentating. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I was looking at university, so that's not a lot of fun compared to commentating on the World Championship. So certainly, if you didn't catch the end of that, watch the end of it. I won't spoil the end for you, but it was quite dramatic. But anything else that we could learn from that race, Marco, in terms of maybe overtaking spots? Of course, long straights around here, a lot of flat out zones. Was there a key overtaking spot that a lot of the drivers were using?
Yeah, absolutely. The chicane after the Camel Straight was the premier passing spot. A lot of times cars had the chance to make the move after the start-finish line into the La Source hairpin, but drivers were very, very smart, were waiting, stayed behind there, and then taking all the draft they could through Eau Rouge already on the Camel Straight, opening the DRS and making the move down there at the chicane. So that was the premier passing spot. But also it can be a very, very big trouble spot, especially in the first lap. We know that this track is fairly long, but it has a reputation for being very, very chaotic at the start. So we can expect a little bit of chaos, especially at the chicane there, and of course at the hairpin. And you see on the first lap also, it's also very, very nice and amazing to see. Usually you get side-by-side action through Eau Rouge in the first lap, and it's always, crazy moment. Hopefully it all goes smooth today.
Yeah, certainly hope so. We've seen plenty of endurance races around this circuit, which haven't lasted too long for several drivers. It is a bit of a pinch spot at the end there, and of course the Camel Straight's so long. If you're the pole sitter, you're almost bound to be defending down that Camel Straight into Lake Coombe. Yeah, that's always a little bit of a crunch zone. Hopefully, as Michael said, we won't have too many issues today. We also did see a Roscoe, I believe it was, Carlo Roscoe, going off the circuit earlier on in his lap. Of course, to get a 1x, go dip one wheel onto the gravel or the grass around this circuit. That will invalidate your lap time. And Marco, that's going to be another important factor in this race, I think. Those 1x's, they've got a 17x limit, I believe. No, they haven't got any limit, but certainly in qualifying, that's a real difficult spot, and you kind of got to have a good strategy about it. You don't want to have two invalidated lap times, and if you get the first one invalidated, then it puts a whole lot of pressure on your second.
Well, 10 minutes here, it's a very, very short time to make your lap, and it's quite easy to get an off track, so you have to be extremely careful. You want to get that good starting position. You know, luckily these cars are very fast, so they are able to, keep a reasonable position when you start in first place. But with the slower cars, and I always talk about the Skippy, but it's, my reference car for road racing. If you start from pole position in Spa-Francorchamps, you can be sure to be around the P6, P7 come the Camel Straight in the first lap, because you are going to get passed by everyone. And 5 wide, 6 wide is not uncommon, and usually with very, very bad results. Likely, I think we're going to see a little bit more calm behavior, because with F1 it's a bit tougher to get a good run. And the draft is not that strong. We were talking about this with Alex Simpson yesterday. So the DRS is going to play a major part in the race if you want to make that overtake, because you have to get a very good run. If you are close enough, you can use the DRS, so there's no point. But especially in the first laps, you're going to need a good run if you want to make a move, because the draft simply is not that strong in this car.
Yeah, certainly once, if you're outside of 6/10 of a second, it's not going to make that much of a difference. Of course, whenever you see the modern F1 cars, of course these are pretty not modern as well, certainly the technology is, but they punch quite a hole in the air. And yeah, if anyone saw the race start Sochi, for example, it was absolutely insane. And of course, that's been a thing for a long time in F1, and maybe in these cars, not quite as powerful as that, but overtaking should still be possible around this circuit. Arguably the turbulent end not quite as effective in this car either, so it kind of balances it out. Ricardo Roscoe playing in his second lap time, so remember, this is quite important for him. They get 3 lap times. I think one of them is an in-lap though. So, well, actually, I think he escaped back to the pit, so he should get 2 more laps in. This is probably his first Ricardo, although he's only got 3 minutes 30 to go, so only get 1 more lap in after this if he has fueled up to do that. And we'll be interested to see where he puts his car on the grid. But a slightly better turnout today, Marco, thankfully. Up to 13 drivers, I think, today, compared to the 11 that we saw at Nürburgring. And hopefully we can fill up this grid a little bit more. But guaranteed, I think there's going to be battles all down the field as Roscoe goes into pole position.
Yes, 145.7 now. We see other drivers coming to the start-finish line. Yarza gets 11th place. Marco Nurbala right now is in P8, number 86. You see this beautiful blue and black livery, light blue, I should say. It's very interesting to see in the bottom right of your screen. You see the speed and the gear. This is very, very nice to see the speed that these cars can carry through the corners. A lot of drivers are still trying to get that, extra bit of performance. 2 drivers have yet to set a time. Aurélien Talmont and Joseph Ringrose. They are sitting in P13 and P14 at the moment.
Well, I think certainly Ringrose is... I thought he was race control. But no, he has just put in a lap time.
He's not.
It's not a bad lap time. P10. So, yeah, that's not bad whatsoever for Jay. Of course, there was a little bit of controversy, at least within the Discord, the last time out, with Riley Preston, who's, a World Championship Grand Prix Joe, or formerly was, missing out because of the 107% rule that is in this series, which, of course, makes a lot of sense. We don't want to see really slow drivers out there, because it's such a difficult car to drive as well. But there's been some modifications, and at the moment, everyone seems to be within that limit anyway, so he should get a very good grid of cars for this race. As Matteo Calastani, so far he hasn't put in a lap, or has he? No, he's currently P3 on the grid, and he's not going to go any better because he's back to the pits. Augusto just coming across the line as well, and he will move up into 3rd position. From 4th, moves ahead of his teammate Calastani. 3 positive sim racing drivers in the top 4, and at least this man, Nicholas Rasmussen, a little bit of a tight spot, Marco. That's always going to be a little bit awkward when you've got so many drivers around you, probably going to gang up on you and try to take the race winner away from you if they possibly can.
Oh, yeah, I have got a communication from race control. By the way, there's been a little bit of a mistake with the incident points. They are, in fact, present. So when a driver gets 17x, he will be manually disqualified by race control. So this has been the decision for this round. So yeah, those incident points come back into contention because yesterday, I think, in the World Championship they got 40, and it's a track that really tends to get incident points, and the distance is the same. So basically, these drivers will have half the incident points, even a bit less than half incident points in the same distance. So a tough ask for these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. The session just coming to an end, and we'll just thank everyone. 34 people watching at the moment, which is pretty cool. So thanks for tuning along, and hopefully you'll be entertained by this race today. We are just going to go through the grid, and it is Ricardo Roscoe on pole position by 7/10 of a second in the end over Nicholas Rasmussen on the front row. Ronaldo Augusto starts on the second row alongside Matteo Calastani. Then it's Orlean Talmont in fifth, Bruno Canavas in sixth, Manuel Hoyer, and then Alexandros Navarra in eighth. I am proud I now know how to say that. Luka Furlich starts in ninth with Marco Numella in 10th. Then it's Joseph Ringrose, David Cudmore, Jorge Di Yaza, and Flavio Clevati starting in 14th position. Michele Constantini, I don't believe, will take the race start. We are just gridding the cars up. Not too many drivers actually on the grid at the moment, but they will slowly form up. And Marco, Ricardo Roscoe on pole position, a World Championship driver. I think won the first round at Nürburgring as well. He's got to be the favourite going into this one.
Yes, absolutely. Favorite driver for me. With, I think, his teammates Augusto and Calestani are going to be close. Let's see Rasmussen, because he can be a very, very fast driver. Let's see if he's able to put himself in a position to win the race.
Yeah, Rasmussen, another driver who was not far away from qualifying for the World Championship last season, actually, and will certainly be hoping to do that next season. That's, coming up, isn't it? 10 weeks away, maybe even less than that, about 8 weeks away, until that all kicks off. That'll be a very competitive season, I'm sure. We've pretty much got everyone on the grid, apart from Michele Constantini. He's just holding us up. I don't think he is going to take to the grid, unfortunately. It is Michele in 15th place. But now we are ready, I believe. The engine's revving up right now. 44 laps here at the Spa-Francorchamps.
Green, green, green.
And away we go. Ricardo Roscoe, really good start. Not a great start for Nicholas Rasmussen. Not bad from Calastani whatsoever from the second row of the grid. And he'll try to go round the outside. But Augusto just about hanging on. A couple of drivers almost wide through La Source. But they've all sorted themselves out. Could be a 3 wide even going Eau Rouge. But Ricardo Roscoe, crucially, with that little bit of a break, he should be okay going down the Camel Straight. Is it going to get close? Just behind. I think Augusto has been passed though by Matteo Calastani, and now under pressure from Talmont as well as they head down into the gloom. But the top 5 staying put. It's getting a little bit action-packed just behind though, with a couple of drivers just side by side, but they seem to have avoided contact just about at the moment, Marco. A very well organised start.
Yes, everybody behaved very, very well, I have to say. A couple of drivers running wide. I think Nurmela ran wide at the first hairpin, but he was able then to, get almost back to his position with a, if you go wide there, then you have a very, very good run down the Rouge Rédillon. So, but I'm seeing already drivers getting off tracks, and this is going to be a problem for them in the long run, I think, especially since it's only the first lap.
Yeah, it could certainly be an issue potentially. They need to really watch that because, you kind of need to sacrifice a little bit in the early stages. Just say that you're not worrying about it in the closing stages, potentially when you're racing for position. Jorge Navarra up 2 positions so far, so he's the big gainer up there, up 2 places. Also, Hoyer lost 6 places. Is trying to get past Yaza at the moment, and I think just got past Yaza going into Blanchimont. So he's back up a position. Ricardo Roscoe, though, after a brilliant start, pulling out a bit of a gap. Nicholas Rasmussen feels as though this has to be the point where he closes the gap. He won't get DRS in these opening couple of laps, but this has been great so far, I think, Marco. But Nicholas probably pushing right on the limit. He knows that if he's going to win this race, he's got to make the move early on.
Yes, let's see, because he is able to stay relatively close to Ricardo in this first lap. Let's see if he's able to maintain this pace. Of course, no DRS in the first or second lap. It will begin from lap 3. Everybody in a nice line. We are seeing this driver. And of course, these drivers will have also to think about their tires. Now, I don't know if they're going to go for a one-stop strategy or a two-stop strategy. We'll see. But if they want to make those tires last, they want to be very, very careful on the throttle, and you don't want to be too aggressive, especially in the beginning. But so far it seems like Rasmussen is able to stay relatively close to Roscoe. Maybe we'll have DRS in the next lap if he keeps this distance.
Well, so far on this lap, they've pretty much matched each other through the first couple of sectors, 5 sectors around this circuit. Some have 6, some have 3, some have 5, some have 4. It's very confusing, but so far he's doing a good job at keeping that gap small, as long as he can get a little bit of a slipstream as well down this straight. A driver who does have a slipstream is Orion Talmon. He's only a quarter of a second behind Ronaldo Augusto, and this could get very interesting. Talmon currently still where he started in 5th place. Augusto down 1 position after managing to hold back Calistani through La Source. He seemed to lose it going up into Eau Rouge, and trying to get the cutback now is Talmon right into the slipstream. Won't get DRS on this lap, but going on to this lap now. So he won't have got it down the pit straight, but he will now get it through down the Camel Straight side. And unfortunately for him, I think Augusto's also going to get the DRS as we now approach Eau Rouge.
You can hear the tire squeal a bit as they go through Rouge, and they can use the DRS for the first time in the race. Augusto is saving a little bit of energy there at the end of the straight. Nothing changes, but I'm seeing Talmon is making much better lines through the corners. Also, he gains a lot in the final chicane, so maybe he's got a little bit of a different setup. Good lines for him. He's extremely close to Augusto now.
Yeah, really seems to have the front of that car hitched up, doesn't he? He's not sliding whatsoever across the track in these medium speed corners, whereas it seems like Augusto is just a little bit out of control, and Talmon, well, he's so close to this part, so you kind of think maybe he will go for a move, even though the vast majority of overtakes are made either into the final chicane or going through Les Combes. But Talmon looking really strong, and maybe even a challenger for the podium. In the end, Nicholas Rasmussen didn't get the DRS. He fell over a second behind. He had a very poor sector 4 and 5. He's maintained the gap on this lap, but unfortunately for Nicholas, he's just starting to drop back, and Roscoe starting to establish that lead. But Talmon, seemingly to me at least, Marco, in that slipstream, not gaining much time whatsoever.
No, absolutely not. You see much smoother line towards through the final chicane. He will have DRS here. I don't think he will go for a move. The smart choice is to wait and then go for a move here. In any place between this hairpin and of course the chicane at the end of the Camel Straight. Great camera shot here. We can see how close they ran to the wall, and now I think Talmon will go for the pass.
Yeah, he lost a little bit of time though, going up Eau Rouge, and once again got the DRS has Augusto, and Talmon was losing time down that straight. Seemingly, maybe that setup, preferring these corners, because he's absolutely superb around this part of the circuit, as you can see as they nearly make a little bit of contact. Talmon looking so strong through the corners, seemingly running a much high downforce setup, Marco, which is an option around this circuit. You can either go really low downforce or much higher downforce.
Yes, I think that is the case, because he is so much faster in the corners, but he is not gaining anything in the straights. So I think we are seeing 2 completely different approaches on the setup between Augusto and Talmon. By the way, if Talmon's car was a little bit more red, he would be a Ferrari, I think, because he also has Sebastian Vettel's helmet. So, but it's a little bit too skewed towards the orange and a lot of black, so it doesn't quite make the illusion work, but almost. As you see, once again through Blanchimont, and now Talmon will gain a lot of time once again in the chicane.
Yeah, at least the livery that I'm seeing, it's almost a little bit of the Marlboro McLaren for just with the way the stripes work, you know. And yeah, the red and the white great livery, of course. Talmon, they don't really care about that right now. Augusto is nearly, well, he's 0.97 behind according to my screen. However, the detection zones don't always listen to proper maths, so we'll see if he gets DRS this time. And he just about will, from what I can see. Yep, does get the slipstream, does Augusto, so the DRS. And once he gets that, it's comfortable down that straight. Once again, pulling away. But through this part of the circuit, straight away onto the back of his rival. And I think this is something that's going on near the front as well. Because Roscoe is consistently much faster than Rasmussen through sectors 5 and 1, which are, you know, the straight sectors. But it seems as though Rasmussen can go faster than Orozco, or at least match him consistently through the middle part of the circuit. So yeah, this setup divide getting very interesting.
I'm reading in the chat, and a lot of people are a bit concerned about Talmon's setup. They think he is in a bit of trouble because with that kind of low top speed, it's going to be extremely tough for him to make a move, and I absolutely agree. Because yeah, he can follow well in the corners, he gains a lot of time, but the premier passing spot here is after that camel straight. So if you don't have the speed to make the move there, and the DRS is not helping him, it's going to be very, very tough for Talmon to make the move. Also, I think in the meantime they are closing a bit on Calestani as well, so this could be a very, very nice scrap for the podium.
Calestani's just had a really poor lap, so we'll compare the lap time. So Orozco does a 49.03, Rasmussen 49.93, Calestani 50.36, and then Augusto and Talmon 40.9 and 40.98 respectively. So look at that, just behind Dure Battle, we've got third position. And actually this time, you feel as though if Calestani is also running a high downforce setup, maybe Augusto will be close enough for the move, but once again, not gaining much whatsoever down that Camel Straights, and if anything, Talmon getting closer than ever down into Lake Coombe. He's really got to go for a surprise attack, I think, now, Marco, because he seems to get close enough. He just needs to be that little bit more gutsy and really, you know, put brake as late as possible going into one of these slower corners.
I think a problem for Nurmela, he is losing positions. I think he went for a ride at the chicane because he lost a couple of positions, and he is about to lose another one. So I think he went straight at the chicane. Let's see. No, he didn't. He lost the car. Did he hit the wall? Because,
I don't think so.
He went behind the hill, so not easy to understand what happened. The car seems fine, but he lost a lot of ground, not what was needed for his race.
Very close so between Augusto and Talmon. The gap's down to 1.5 tenths of a second, and down the inside maybe. That was a replay. I was getting overexcited, but Augusto under pressure, and here comes Talmon down the inside into the final chicane, and he just about makes the move, and that's a fantastic move there from Orion Talmon. He's going to be under pressure from Augusto, guaranteed up the Camel Straight, but that was a superb dive down the inside.
I don't know if that was the camera angle, but he almost collected
contact behind,
Calestani.
so there was a bit of contact between Canavas and Harja Navarra. Canavas making that move. Apologies.
Oh, don't worry, man. I watched the replay. It was the camera angle. They were. I mean, Talmon was had a little bit of separation between himself and Calestani, but from the camera angle I got, it almost looked like he was going to hit Calestani. That was a great pass. He had to force the issue, and that's a great move. And now he should go on the hunt for third place. Let's see if Calestani is able to keep his good pace. I mean, he had a terrible lap earlier. Let's see if that's just a bad lap, or really if Talmon can close the gap on him and maybe hunt him down for the third place.
Well, I must say I've been super impressed so far by Orlean, and yeah, if he can keep that kind of pace up, I think Calestani's going to be in a lot of trouble. Don't know if we could just see a replay of the Canavas Harja Navarra battle, because it was a move down into La Source earlier on in this lap, and there was a little bit of contact between the pair of them. I'm just quite curious to see if there was a little bit of damage for either of them. You can see Canavas got really close down that pit straight, went to the inside, and has he just locked his brakes? I'm not sure. Neither of them really wanted to give up there, Marco, and in the end it nearly cost them a little bit of damage.
Yeah, and of course we all know you have to be careful because especially front wing damage is extremely costly in the pit stops. Even though you have like a small amount of damage, you are going to be held there for around 10 seconds.
Oh, Talman, so I think it's got an issue.
Yeah. Big issue is down to P7, so maybe a mistake, a spin, damage to the front wing, damage to his front wing. So major issues for the French driver there. I don't know. Here we go with the replay. Oh, Blanchimont, those curves, especially on the outside, you see, Sam, there's a lot of bumps on the outside of the curve at Blanchimont, so if you hit that with the car, you go a little bit too wide, you're going to lose your balance and it becomes very, very easy to spin either to the left or to the right. Only front wing damage for him, but that's big front wing damage. That's the kind of front wing damage that also impacts your performance, not only a cosmetic damage.
Yeah, definitely. You just wonder, maybe if he does have to change it, he'll have to convert to a two-stop strategy. That might be the best way, but with such cool track conditions, you would expect pretty much everyone to go for the one-stopper today. But yeah, that's not what he wanted, and I will take credit for that. A little bit of a curse. Usually it's Marco who dishes them out, but I will take responsibility for that one, at least. And yeah, now needs to try to make his way back past Hargenbar and Canavas. Also got this battle, Manuel Hoy had an awful start earlier on, and he dropped down into 10th position, I think, or even lower than that. I think dropped down to 12th. He is up into the top 9 now, and it's got Luka Furlich only just ahead. And it's quite incredible, Marco. If you look at all these drives in the top 9, there's no gaps kind of more than about 3 seconds amongst any of them. It's just a, a constant line of pass.
Yes, great balance throughout the field. Of course, the top guys are a bit faster than the mid guys and the slower guys, but what we want to see is great battles all throughout the field. And I think this race is delivering, even with, if we are not seeing many passes on the track, but this constant battling, always nose to tail with your opponent, is certainly entertaining. And of course, we still have to see which cars will these drivers play with the pit stop. So very interesting race. 9 laps in the books, almost 10 laps in the books, and a lot long ways to go because it's 44 laps here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, should be about 1 hour 20 long race. I don't know why I'm even saying that. It should be something like that. Maybe hour and 25, hour and 30 limit, of course, for these events. But I doubt we'll reach that length. But yeah, certainly a lot of questions being raised. And another question being raised, Ricardo Roscoe leading this race still, but the gap's coming down again. Nicholas Rasmussen's doing a good job at just pegging the gap back. It was up about 5 seconds at one point, just going down to 4.2. On that last lap, Rasmussen was only half a tenth slower, and on this lap, he's seemingly closed in by about 0.3 of a second. So yeah, we should not count out Rasmussen whatsoever for that lead battle, and still Calistani, Auguste and Canvas running very well. Here comes Talmont, and he's trying to fight his way back through the field after the spin earlier on.
Let's see if he goes for a move at the bus stop. He's looking on the outside. Very, very brave move, but he's able to complete the pass, even with the front wing damage. So P6 for Talmont, and now he is hunting down, I think, Canovas in P5. I think Canovas made a small mistake towards the end of the lap because he lost a bit of time. So let's see, 1.8 seconds between himself and Talmont. So I think we will have a battle for P5 pretty soon.
Yeah, I thought I could just see at the far distance him just going a little bit wide there. Canavas going into the chicane. Here comes Hoyer trying to get past Furlich. Through the trees, they climb the hill, very steep hill there, and still side by side, fantastic battling. And Hoyer, in the end, losing out, but he might get a better cutback here. Can look to the inside into this next one, but just not confident enough to go for it, despite Furlich having to recover a little bit of energy. That's the flashing light on the back of the car. And Hoyer, well, he needs to be very decisive here, Marco, because can't afford to lose too much more time. Thought there may have been an opportunity for him to put his nose on the inside there.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just have a quick word about the, very, very lively chat today, and a lot of spectators watching the race. We are around 50. It's a pleasure to broadcast the race for you guys, and keep the comments coming. If you have any questions, just ask us, and we will answer. Hopefully, we have the answer to your questions.
Yeah, don't trust us.
As Hoyer is trying to get a good run coming down the chicane. Of course, Hoyer teammate to Augusto and Calestani and Roscoe. Why is Calestani 5th? Something must have happened.
Yes, that's a good point, because he was running ahead of Auguste and Canavas, wasn't he? But drops down into 5th place, and Scott Newton on the cameras always can find the instant, and just getting onto the artificial grass, taps the wall, a little bit of front wing damage, not as bad as Talmon's earlier on, but that was it wasn't a clumsy mistake necessarily, Marco. That was just pushing a little bit too hard, and once you do that, that's a real painful corner.
Yes, I tell you what, looking at throughout the field, I think around half the cars today have front wing damage, so this is going to be interesting in the pit stops, because, like I said, the pit stop gets to around 10 seconds when you have to change the front wing, as Talmon now is trying to pass Calestani. They both have front wing damage. So, a mistake from Augusto, I think. In 3rd place, he's lost a lot of time. Nothing major, I think, as Talmon goes for the move on the inside, but he certainly had a moment, because he went from 5 seconds from Rasmussen, now he's 6 seconds, so I think made a mistake somewhere, as Calestani is able to defend the position. So a lot of stuff happening right now, Sam. Great action, very, very exciting race today. Let's see if Talmon goes for another move here at the chicane. Also, I think Ringrose has got a bit of a problem back in P11. So
Yeah,
certainly the tires are getting worse and worse, because we are seeing a lot of mistakes in these last few laps.
Yeah, definitely. I think the competitiveness as well. It's going down to tenths of a second at the moment between these guys, so you've got to be on the limit. Quite ironic that Calestani and Talmon will tipping this for the battle for the last remaining podium position not too long ago. Here they are fighting for 5th and 6th instead, but although they might be fighting for 4th very soon, because Canvas is losing it just ahead, and he has lost it now as Talmon. He's into the barrier, and that could be terminal damage. Oh, and another crash just behind.
Hoyer as well. Hoyer is in the fence, and so is Talmon. I think, Sam, it's terminal damage for both. They are out of this race, and those were 2 very, very big crashes. I think this is game over for both of them. These drivers are really on the edge. Too bad, especially for Talmon. He was having a very entertaining race. Fighting up and down the field, but that's sadly something you don't recover from.
Yeah, had superb pace out there, Talmon. I think quite not far off, the likes of Orozco and Rasmussen out there in terms of absolute pace, but a couple of oversteering moments. Again, if we could just see a replay of that incident on board with him, just see what it was like. Although Canavas currently struggling against Calestani. He's only 0.2 of a second behind Calestani after that spin earlier on. Canavas has put not a foot wrong, apart from a little bit of contact with Haji Navarre earlier on, and he might be losing this position going into Blanchemont. Will he keep his foot in? He's going to try to go around the outside. Canavas off the circuit, and now Calestani back up into the top 4.
As Canavas goes for the pits.
So that's a 2-stopper, isn't it?
Yes, 2 stoppers. Nurmela stood back to the pits, so I think he's had a problem somewhere. So we're seeing a lot of the drivers having problems in these last few laps, and Talmon and Hoyer are out. I think Nurmela is out as well, because I think he towed back to the pits. or he had a very, very quick pit entry after his mistake.
So we're kind of dropping quite a few of drivers now, with the Talmont, Hoyer and New Mellet seemingly out of this race potentially. Constantini also didn't take the start, so we're down to 10 drivers out there. Still going to have plenty of good battles. Augusto running in P3 at the moment. He's been probably the least action-packed race out there so far. Clavatti trying to close in on Ringrose. Struggled a little bit in qualifying, did Clavatti, and actually, on that last lap, actually Ringrose just pitting. So that's why Clavatti is so close to the back of him. Early pit stop. And I think it's going to be in these next couple of laps, Marco, where we find out who's on a 1 and who's on a 2 stopper.
Yes, absolutely. Aurelien Talmont has just joined us in the live chat, a little bit dejected. You know, understandably, because he was having a good race. So Hoyer is out of the race. Rasmussen is in the pits. Talmont and Nurmela are still towing back, I think, but I'm very, very surprised if they go back on the track. Augusto and Calestani are also in as well. Orozco is continuing, and so is Agivernava, so he climbs up to P2.
Well, Hajinova, after a good qualifying and a decent couple of first laps, has just been struggling for pace recently. He was running ahead of Canavas at one point, but lost out and then seemed to be dropping back a little bit. Maybe he was just preserving his tyres a little bit. We did get a little bit of a word from Kevin S. Jr., of course, a couple of weeks ago in regards to the tyres, and he's very much, you can't really save them too much. You kind of always got to be pushing. There's not really an easy solution to making the tyres go much further, but certainly wouldn't put it past Alexander just to just be easing the those rear tyres and those front tyres a little bit round this track so far, in the view of maybe pulling off a 1-stopper.
Yesterday the 1-stoppers stopped around lap 20, 21, so even if on the lap counter it doesn't seem much, I guarantee to the people watching that in this track having 5 more laps on these worn tires is very, very costly in terms, of course, of controlling the car and in terms of the lap times, because I mean, running around 2 minutes per lap, you lose a huge amount of time if you are running out on worn tires compared to the guys on fresher tires. So let's see what happens. I think Orozco will be in very soon. Not this lap, because he went by 51.1. Let's compare his times to the times of Rasmussen, Augusto and all the others and see how much they are gaining. Of course, beginning from next lap, because now they are still in the route lap.
Well, just for a bit of a reference, yeah, Roscoe 51.1. Joe Ringrose did a 51.4. And no disrespect to Joe or anything, but he's probably not in quite the same class as Ricardo Orozco, and yet those two nearly matching their lap time. So it shows how powerful those new tyres are. And I do question maybe Ricardo is going to be going for a 1-stopper. Certainly got the gap to Nicholas Rasmussen, especially if he was cruising in that early stages. He's still very comfortable, 21 seconds out in the lead, and is still 28 seconds ahead of Rasmussen with this relatively short pit lane, because of course you skip the opening corner.
Yes, I'm also in contact with the race control, and driver with the highest incidents right now is Canovas. He's got 12 incident points. So he is not that far away from a disqualification, and we are only 15 laps in. So they promise they will keep me up to date with possible disqualifications, as Rasmussen is trying to go for a move on Ferlich, and he does. Quite easy, of course. The difference in tires is astonishing between these two drivers. So yeah, I mean, if you have 12x this early in the race is going to be problematic if you want to last for man. It's not even half distance right now. So
yeah, that's pretty insane, getting so many incidents in these early stages. And Perlich is off the track, and that's going to be an incident as well. So it seems as though we could, you know, by the halfway stage of this race, start seeing drivers disappear into thin air. Of course, we severely hope that we don't, because we want to see as many drivers out there as possible. But it is something that the drivers have got to manage from now to the end of the race.
I tell you what I did a few months ago, a race in the BSR MX5 Cup around here, and I get to manage the final 3 laps of the race with 1 incident point to spare, and they were the 3 most scary laps I had to do in iRacing. I can only imagine what might be for these guys, you know, having to do much more than 3 laps with very high incident counts. So, going to be tough. I'm sure that not only Canovas has 12x, but I mean, I think other guys must be around 10 or something like that, because to the guys that are watching, I tell you that when you see on the left side of your screen the number of the car flashing in red, that is an off-track. So every time you see that, it's quite possible that the driver had an off-track. Of course, we use a different system than iRacing. It's a little bit more severe, you know, we are a bit more punishing on the off-tracks, but it's a good approximation. So, and the 12x that Canovas has, they are official iRacing incident points, because once again, we are talking with race control right now. So we'll keep an eye on this and see. Orozco is still going on, so I think the one stopper is definitely on the cards for him.
Yeah, I think that's what he's going to have to commit to, because Rasmussen now, he's pretty much got the jump on him, I think, because he's lapping about 2 seconds lap faster. He was about 5 seconds behind. I say 5 seconds, probably, yeah, 5 seconds, 4.5, 5 seconds when he came into the pit. So my maths isn't great, but 2.5 laps-ish, he should make it up, and he has now had, well, at the end of this lap, 3 laps of clean air on that last lap. He was 1.9 seconds faster. Once again was Nicholas, and he needs to try to dispatch Alexandros Hajnavar nice and quickly. Already Hajnavar having to recover a little bit of engine with the DRS. Rasmussen, if anything, will gain a little bit of time with that drag reduction down the Kemmel Straight and up into second place once again. So this is interesting now, Marco, how these two strategies match up against one another, because at least Rasmussen, I think in those early stages, didn't have the pace to keep up with Ricciardo. It's good that we're seeing him do something different, at least to try to challenge him.
Yes, this is what we want. I mean, the different strategies and, you know, the excitement of, you know, because I think if all holds up to what we're seeing right now, like you said, Rasmussen will be in front, so Roscoe will have to do the move on the track now. Of course, he will have fresher tires, but it's still, you have to make a move, and every time you make a move, you are putting yourself in a risky position. So, very interesting race so far. I love the different strategies. Let's see if how long Orozco goes, because he's still staying out. Of course, 51.4, like I said, stop is around lap 20, 21 if you want to do a one-stopper. So he has to go 2-3 more laps.
Yeah, I think so. And on that last lap, once again, 2 seconds gain for Nicholas Rasmussen. So it's a consistent drop of the gap. It was up about 27 seconds, I think, at one point, down to 22.5 now. So yeah, he's well on course, says Rasmussen, to at least put some pressure on Orozco in the closing stages. Of course, even if Rasmussen is on the bet strategy, he's only going to be able to catch Orozco most likely in the closing 5 laps or so. So certainly stick with us, because that's going to really be where this race is decided. Still got Hajnavar up there in P3. He's yet to pit, with Augusto in 4th. Has pitted, so he's looking very strong for the podium currently. And here comes Calistani. He's going to try to get past Canavas right now. And through he goes. had a longer pit stop than Kalistani. That's why he was behind, I think.
Yeah, he had to change the front wing because of his mistake. Scott Newton is telling us that the pit delta is around 25 seconds, so for sure Rasmussen is going to be in front after the pit. Of course, we will have around 4 or 5 seconds, maybe even a bit more because he's gaining a bit every lap. So I think in the end Orozco will be around 5 to 7 seconds behind him when he makes the pit stop. And this will be an interesting battle, as you see right now. Calestani, Canovas, Ferlich, all battling against each other. 52.0 for Orozco this time around. Let's see Rasmussen. Well, we've seen a bit, of course.
Going past.
Yeah, as Calestani goes for the move. And Canovas is trying to do the same. 49.7 for Rasmussen, so you see the difference is quite clear in the lap times.
Yeah, 2.3 on that lap. It's been kind of 1.8, 1.9 so far. So is Ricciardo now really struggling out? They had a very poor sector 2. He lost 0.7 of a second in sector 2 alone. I think that's through Lake Kuman. I can't remember what the corner after that is called. But then No Name and maybe even Pouon as well is in sector 2. So, you know, obviously it's going to be through the corners. And actually in sector 3, he lost 1.2 seconds, quite astoundingly. Through the first and final sectors, of course, they're just straights, and he's still maintaining the gap. Probably just showing how Ricciardo has got quite a low downforce setup out there compared to Nicholas. But through these corners, he's gaining time. Hand over fist currently is the Gap SRT racing driver.
Gap now down to 19 seconds now. I think it's going to be this lap and one more for Orozco before his pit. And then we'll see a straight shootout for the race win between these two guys. Maybe Augusto, if Augusto gains a little bit of time, he might, but it's not going to be easy, might come out in front of Orozco as well, but it's going to be very, very close.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah, because, you know, we have to do one more overtake, and yes, we know, you know, it's not that difficult to make the overtake once you have the DRS on the backstretch. But still, you have to make a move. It's a risky moment, and maybe, you know, your opponent defends well. Of course, Augusto and Orozco are teammates, so I don't think he's going to put up to to resist too much. But, you know, we'll see. Giovinazzi is in the pits, and he slowly moves down the order. So Calestani now in 4th, Canovas in 5th, and Ferlich in 6th place.
Someone's just suggested that Orozco is doing the no stop, doing the Sergio Perez. Did Perez actually do that? That's against the rules. I remember Vettel nearly did it. 2010 Monza, where he pitted on the last, or not the last lap, but the penultimate lap, and actually managed to get a position from that, so that worked quite well. But yeah, Perez, he was pretty good on his tyres back in 2012, I seem to remember. And also, same person say, Harsh Navarre is a cool name, and I can certainly echo that. Also, of course, Calestani now 5 seconds behind Augusto, trying to close that gap. It was half a second faster on that last lap. Those two teammates, obviously, so we'll be interested to see how that dynamic works with Canovas also in there, Ferlich, and only Ferlich and Orozco still yet to pit, seemingly. Yeah, Harjan Navarre pitting on lap 19, and here comes Orozco actually into the pits. Needs to make sure that he doesn't mess up his pit entry. Should come out in 2nd position. It's just how far behind Nicholas Rasmussen. We're estimating about 8 seconds should be the gap. Rasmussen, needs to keep that pace up, and still got one more pit stop, of course, has Rasmussen to make. Orozco back out of his pit stop, and now exiting the pit lane. and the gap seemingly almost over the white line. I don't think you get a penalty for that. They can take some liberties. 9 seconds. So yeah, we've got that about right, I think we'll say. Of course, crucially ahead of Augusto. And yeah, we will just have to see how these next few laps play themselves out.
Yes, let's see. Now Rasmussen has to really push. Of course, Roscoe is going to gain on him because of the fresher tires. He needs to push very hard and maintain a reasonable gap. Then opt for a quick pit stop, come out of the pits, and then push extremely hard in order to try to get close to Roscoe using the fresher tires. Augusto in third, Calestani in fourth. So everyone up one spot. I see the situation with the incident points live from the stewards. This is a fantastic service. So going from the top, I got Orozco is on 10, and then we have Rasmussen is sitting on 5, so a good race for him. Augusto has got 7. Calestani has got 1, unbelievably, after his contact with the wall, and Canovas has got 13.
So has Bruno's increased recently since the last time we checked?
By 1.
By
so
1, okay. So he's managing.
Yeah. But you know, Orozco being on, you know, him being on 10 incident points, it might be a problem. You know, 7 is not a lot. So, I mean, he will have to be very careful with his lines in this final part of the race. I mean, we are just turning the halfway corner right now. So, 7 incident points is going to be a tough number to manage for him.
Yes, definitely. Luka Perlich now into the pits. He was the last driver to come into the pits. And also, Joe Ringrose coming in for his second pit stop. Is he on a 3-stopper? Ringrose? That would be absolutely outrageous. Clay just wants to sprint this entire race, just do qualifying laps all day. But especially with the mistakes that we've seen from many drivers, if Joe feels confident with that, feels like his risk of a spin are much lowered. It certainly could be worth a try, but he is in at this midway point in the race. Already the gap between Rasmussen and Roscoe seemingly coming down. It was up at 9 seconds at one point, back down to 8 already, and actually just dipping below 8 seconds in the past few seconds. So yeah, he's already closing that gap back because it doesn't matter too much. Rasmussen will be faster in the closing 15 laps or so once he makes his pit stops, which we expect on about probably lap 29-ish, something like that, lap 28. But for now, Roscoe, this is where he's got the fresh tyres and can make up a little bit of time himself.
Fastest lap of the race for Roscoe right now, 48.7. He's hunting down. You see the gap in real time on the bottom right side of your screen. 7.2 seconds right now. Clivati is right in front of him. Of course, he's a lap down.
Roscoe just went just at a purple first sector, 5/10 faster than Rasmussen, which is pretty incredible considering that it's one corner pretty much. So well, they're all flat out up Eau Rouge, at least I believe they are. So that just shows the straight line speed of Orozco's car and how they've really divided the downforce trims between the pair of them. Of course, also through the middle part of the circuit as well, Roscoe is also gaining time through the second sector, 2/10 faster. Third sector, they're pretty much matching one another on this lap at least, and then through this part of the circuit, all Riccardo Roscoe. and he's got that gap down to 6.8 seconds now. It's going to be pretty much nothing, I think, Marco, by the time that Nicholas comes into the pits. It's not looking fantastic for him at the moment because he's going to seemingly have about 25 seconds to gain in the final 15 laps of this race.
Yes, it's looking tough for him. Looking good for the second place for Rasmussen, but for the race win, he has to hope that Orozco really gets into trouble with his off tracks because otherwise it's going to be very, very difficult for him. He cannot even hope to put some pressure because when you are that far behind, this is not going to change Ricciardo's way of driving, I think. So he has to hope for a problem. Of course, we say it's never a very sporty thing to do, but it's part of racing, Problems, mistakes, they are part of racing. So I think this is the only chance that Rasmussen has in order to get a race win today.
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, Joe Ringrose has had to retire from the race. He's also on the chat, so yeah. Not quite sure what happened to Joe out there. Apparently he crashed. I haven't got any more information than that, but Joe is a little bit disappointed with that, as you can perfectly understand. Hopefully we'll see him back, but I must say, Marco, we've seen quite a few casualties out there so far. We've had 5 retirements out of the starting 14 cars. Sorry, 6 retirements, I believe. Yeah, 6 retirements out of the starting 14 cars. Shows how difficult this track is, and of course, if we didn't know already how difficult this car is.
And most of these retirements came around the halfway mark of the race. Almost all of them came together, and I think that's in part because of the tough nature of the track with worn tires. So as Orozco gets another fastest lap of the race, 48.7, 49.8 for Rasmussen, more than 1 second gain there. So we'll see how these drivers will cope with their tires getting once again worn. Of course, after in the second stint it is a bit easier because you get the car is a bit lighter, quite a bit lighter in comparison to the start of the race. By the way, yesterday in the World Championship race, Kevin Ellis Jr. basically ran out of fuel, rounding out the La Surserpine after crossing the finishing line. So, but he had a little bit of damage. But you see, most of these guys went through the first part of the race with aero damage. Some of them significant aero damage. So, gotta be careful with the fuel numbers.
Yes, and that's a good point. 100 litres. I think they all... No, it's 105. Is it 105 or 100, Marco? Yeah, it's kilograms because, of course, litres expand, obviously. Mm-hmm. So kilograms in terms of weight. But, I think it's like 105 kilograms they can put into the car. And, fuel is always an issue in these events. Also, energy recovery, of course, as well. Calistani, 4 seconds behind Augusto still. Of course, Calistani, after that bit of a mistake earlier on, you wonder where he would be if it weren't for that. Well, you wonder. He'd probably just be ahead of Augusto right now in 3rd position. But instead, he's going to have to work for it. They're matching each other's lap times currently, with Canvas just dropping back by about 1/4 second per lap, seemingly. All spreading out a little bit, Marco, but I think Calistani may well have the edge on Rinaldo currently.
He's gaining a bit, so this is good. He has a long way to go as he completes, I think that was Clivati, getting lapped once again. So looking good for Matteo. I mean, he has time to gain these 4 seconds on Augusto. So maybe a little bit of an undercut for the second pit stop could go a long way towards helping him gaining that final podium spot.
Pretty much all the guys who have gone for the two-stop pitted on lap 13, apart from Canavas who pitted on lap 12. So not going to be too much of a difference between their tyres currently, all down to pace. It's just when they come in, and this is certainly the opening of the pit window. Would have to do, 18 laps on a set of tyres. He will not want to do that, so probably will extend it out to about lap 28, lap 29 before opting in. But certainly an option. Down to 3 seconds now between the top two. Rasmussen really struggling out there in comparison to Roscoe. Actually, Rasmussen's only lapping about 7/10 of a second off his best lap of the race, which really shows how he's not lost too much time compared to where he started. Roscoe just seems that much quicker.
Here we go, on board with Orozco, race 1 winner at the Nürburgring. Let's see his lap time, this time 49.0. So he gains 1.5 seconds over Rasmussen, but it's not a new personal best, and of course not a new race record, because he of course is holding the fastest lap of the day today. Very, very good line through Rouge. You can see the gap in real time in the top left of the screen on the scoring column, going down. Even without the draft, he is gaining on the straight. Of course, this is due to the better exit he has from the Rouge and Radion complex. You can really see Rasmussen in front of him. It's good if we can get the entire lap on board with him, so we can see the lines here to Brussels and then to the corner with no name.
It's called Brussels, is it?
The long right-hander, yes. I think.
I think it's called something else, though. You're right, but I think it's called another name as well.
One thing that is I noticed about Spa-Francorchamps, depending on which track map you get, the corners are named differently. Yeah. So it's very difficult to get a unique name for the corners. So it's a very strange thing, and I've noticed that even the commentators have a tough time getting on the same page about the name of the corners. So this one is Blanchimont in every track map I found, this long left-hander. They changed the runoff area in 2006, 2007, and they also changed the bus stop, and they also changed the start-finish line as Rasmussen goes in.
Yep, this is pretty much what we expected from Rasmussen. Maybe he could have extended it out to lap 28, but instead 27. He's in 13 lap first stint, 14 lap second stint, and it's going to be quite a long third stint, isn't it? It's going to be, what, 17 laps, I think? 17 laps will be this third stint, so he is going to have to extend it a little bit, but of course, as we've already mentioned, the fuel going down, so that should help him out a little bit. He has come out in 4th position, seemingly. Canavas also into the pits as well.
I'm expecting Calestani and Augusto in the next couple of laps. Let's see if Calestani tries for an undercut. I guess he's on the radio with his teammate, or they are at least talking on the same channel. Maybe they have already a plan in their mind. We've seen some stuff lately, both in real life and in the World Championship, that of course we know the drivers are talking to each other. They work with each other. I don't know, Sam, if you know what happened yesterday, but there was some controversy in the World Championship race.
Yes, so, the end. I don't even... Well, I guess we can spoil it, can't we? So I guess we can just go. What was going on there? Why was there the swap?
I think it was to help Mack get between the championship. I think Gregor was not very happy with that, and let's say he moved him out of the way. As we see Rasmussen going for a move on Calestani, of course, much fresher tires. Calestani will do whatever he can to help his teammate in the lead, but he cannot resist this move. And Augusto is in, and maybe Calestani will go in as well, yes.
Oh, he's nearly messed up the pit entry though, Calestani. That don't know if he locked a brake or something, but he was pretty much off the circuit when he came into pit entry. But he has made it in with gusto also in, as Marco said. Does mean that Rasmussen's back up into second place. But yeah, just back onto yeah, that Coanda issue. In one sense, you know, who cares who finishes in third and who finishes in fourth in the championship? But there's a little bit of money at stake. I don't know how much it is, but I think third place in the championship gets $2 grand, and that's real money. That's not, you know, iRacing dollars or whatever. That's proper money. So I guess when you're gaining $1 grand like that, it's worth, you know, giving up a position to help your teammate, because yeah, that's sizable money. I wouldn't mind having that myself.
Tell you what, if there's no, you know, if there's no rule against team orders, I'm okay with them, and also I'm okay with what Gregor did. I know I like a little bit of, you know, hard racing between the drivers. That might be my oval school of thought, but I liked the end of the race yesterday was a lot of fun, and it's good to see that Gregor still has the fire in him. So I'm not dealing with this bomb. he got that second place regardless, so that was a lot of fun. So Agivarnava now is in fourth, Kalesani is in fifth, and I think Alexandros still has to pit, maybe. Or maybe, let's see.
Yes,
no,
he does, yeah.
Yes, he does.
No, he put on lap 19, which was the earliest of the one.
Oh, yeah. So this is for position. I don't think he's going to stop anymore. So yeah, this is actually a battle for position, and Kalestani is trying to set up a move. Rasmussen personal best 48.7.
Let's see if Kalestani can get it done into the chicane. But no, hanging on around the outside is Alexandros. Will he go to the pits? No, he won't. Of course, he doesn't have to come to the pits. We've already established this. So, in a way, this is for position. Because, yeah, neither of them need to pit again in this race. But at the same time, Alexandros isn't really fighting him, because it's pretty inevitable how this one's going to turn out. But, yeah, Kalestani will still try to get the move. He is 10 seconds behind Augusto now. How did that happen to Kalestani? Was that all with the pit entry, Marco?
Maybe he got... let's see, I'm looking at the pit stop times, and it seems all good for Kalestani. 35 seconds as... Sorry about that. Oh yeah, of course, the light timing. As he goes for a move on Agivarnava and gets it done. So pit times looks good, so I don't know what happened. Pit lane time is the same.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of an issue just on pit entry. I don't know if we could just go back to that for Kalestani. Just when he came into the pits, that would have been on lap 28. We saw him almost go into the wall on pit entry, so I guess it was something to do with that, but I doubt he lost 5 seconds or whatever. Just from that, it seemed like he maybe lost a couple of seconds due to it, but yeah, that's not what he needed whatsoever, Kalestani, and all of a sudden that battle, which was so close for the final podium position, seems to pretty much be over now.
I remember when I was young, you know, there were a lot of complaints about this new pit entrance at Spa-Francorchamps, because it is very, very narrow, and that wall is there, and after the wall there's basically a 100 meters cliff. Well, maybe not 100 meters, but you get the idea. It goes straight down.
It looks that tall, to be fair.
I mean, in real life it's actually quite scary to think, you know, it's impossible, of course, for a car to flip over that wall, but still, it's quite amazing to see it in real life, the drop that you have, because then you go to this other part of the track, so there's quite a significant cliff from the end of pit road, and when they reconfigured the bus stop chicane, they had to change the pit entrance, because I don't know if you remember, but the old pit entrance basically was in a straight line from the straight after Blanchimont. It went straight, and the bus stop was you know, a simple left, right, left at the end of the track, so completely different from what it is now. So they had to be creative with a new pit entrance, and since this is a very, very tricky terrain around Spa-Francorchamps, that was the only solution they had, basically.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm that young that I don't remember that. Of course, I've seen, plenty of footage from it, season highlight videos and whatnot. And of course, 98 Belgium, that was quite a famous race where there was all kinds of incidents. I think there was quite a hefty incident for Fisichella on pit entry one time.
Yes.
I don't know what year that was.
98.
It was 98, okay.
And then in 99 or 2000, he flipped at this corner here in the warm-up. He went straight there and hit the wall. There was no tire barrier. There was an Armco barrier, I think, and he flipped in the warm-up early in the morning. So those were different days because he had a concussion. He didn't remember anything about the crash, and in the afternoon he raced regardless. Something that will never happen today.
Yeah, this track certainly had its fair share of big incidents. Certainly going up Eau Rouge, I can't remember again who it was. I think it was 99. But a couple of teammates agreed that they would go flat out the Eau Rouge, and one of them binned it, and nearly seriously injured themselves. Of course, in these cars, with the amount of downforce that the F1 cars nowadays produce, it's quite simple. That not quite the challenge it once was, but of course now through Pouon in the 2017 spec cars, I remember Alonso went flat out through Pouon. Of course, didn't have much power to deal with, but still quite impressive. And certainly new challenges rising for the drivers. Canavas making the move on Furlich now, and next up will be Harjanabara. Furlich, of course, on a one-stopper along with Harjanabara, and actually Harjanabara and Furlich certainly racing against each other. Furlich pitted 2 laps later, and maybe those couple of laps will help him in the fight against the Racing Network driver.
I think the teammates you are talking about were, I think, the 2 BAR teammates. In 1999 in qualifying, they both destroyed their cars, Villeneuve and Zonta, at Eau Rouge.
Yes, I think it was Zonta who binned it, yeah.
And also Villeneuve binned it as well a few minutes later.
Yeah.
So that was a very costly weekend for what was going then to become Mercedes today, if you think about it, because VAR, then Honda, then Braun GP, and then Mercedes. And they are using the factory that was used for Reynard when they had their very, very successful kart. They used to give their cars to many kart teams, especially the Chip Ganassi racing team, which won a lot of titles in the late 90s. So it's very nice to find the story of all the teams, and now they are basically all locked together, going back to a lot of time ago, as Canovas Energy Varnava nose to tail through Eau Rouge. Let's see if Canovas can get a good run. Also right behind them is Ferlich. So very nice battle here for P5.
Yeah, Canovas not making the move at the moment. Ferlich, could still challenge Harjanabara by the end of this race. We'll just have to wait and see how the tyres play out. Of course, we haven't really paid too much attention to the top 2 recently. 19 seconds is the gap, and this is a straight fight now. So neither of them have got pit stops to make, and it is simply a case of us making up that 19-second gap in the remaining laps that we have, which for those guys will be 11 more laps, I think, pretty much. So he needs to gain, 1.5 seconds a lap. He's currently gaining about 0.8 a lap. It's not going to be enough, seemingly, for us. So he's going to get to within 10 seconds at least, but I think any closer to 5. And I don't think that's going to happen. So Roscoe, as long as he keeps it on circuit, which we've seen with these tyres, and as we just see there, not an easy thing to do. He should be home dry.
Yeah, I've had no updates from race control, so I think the incident points situation is under control for Roscoe. Remember, he had 10 incident points on his name just a few minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, more or less. So he had 7 incident points to spare. he must, even if he had a couple here and there, he still has 5 and is 18 seconds in front. So yeah, Rasmussen is coming, but he is not under major pressure from behind, so he can absolutely control his race. Even though I have noticed, but maybe that it is me being a very bad driver, that when I try to, go a bit slower, then I make more mistakes. But that might be me.
Well, that's certainly a thing, isn't it? With you need to keep your intensity up, and also certainly the thing that I find in endurance racing, I do a little bit of in GT endurance racing, is, in practice you're not holding back, you're making mistakes left, right, and center, but you've got great pace, and then once you get into the race, of course, you very much hold yourself back a little bit, and all that practice that you did becomes a little bit pointless. So certainly you need to keep that intensity up. Otherwise, all that you know how to drive around the circuit, you don't know. It's clearly a driver who does know how to drive around this circuit is Bruno Cannavas, because that's a superb move he's just pulled off on Alexandros Arjnabar. And now can go and hunt Matteo Calastani. Don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. 7 seconds, and they're pretty even on pace. In fact, Matteo, across the race at least, has had probably the edge on pace, but I'm sure Bruno will not give up on that. And Bruno, I think generally today, Marco, I don't think we saw him at the first round, certainly has impressed me a lot. He's really been there or thereabouts. I think almost matching the pace of Augusto and Calastani is a great effort.
Yes, especially like we said, he has to contend with a very, very high number of incidents, so he had to, I think, slow down a bit. By the way, a nice update from race control. Thanks once again, guys. Cannavas has got 14 and Orozco 13, so numbers are going up a bit, but not by much. So situation is still under control. Of course, when you've got 13 incident points, it gets a little bit problematic, because sometimes you can get unlucky, get some net code contact, and that's your race. So of course, Bruno has to be a little bit more careful now, but he has no one around him. I mean, he has Alexandros behind him, but he's going to pull a gap on him in a bit. So should be good to go until the end of the race.
Of course, we have been told that the future system in all the iRacing, well, I say all the iRacing events, at least in the endurance events, will be once you get a certain amount of incidents, you get a drive-through penalty. They've pretty much confirmed that. Not sure if they're working on it right now. Apparently there was another project that they had to sort out first. But certainly that would be an absolutely superb addition. Because or they could just sort out the incident system around the circuit, one or the other. But certainly at least progress being made, and that will be a great addition when it comes about.
A quick shout out to the driver in 8th place, by the way, Fabio Clivati. He's got 0x so far. So
wow,
you see what a clean race can do for you. He's definitely not the fastest guy on the track, but he's been able to keep out of trouble, and he's getting a nice finish from it.
Yeah, he's about 4 seconds off the leaders, is Clivati, but 0 incidents, and you can see he's not pushing the limits too much as Fabio, but full credit to him for doing this, because a lot of drivers would get a little bit impatient, but Fabio knows what he's trying to do. He's just trying to drive a solid race, and you gotta say, up in 8th position, he's could well end up in the top half of the field, so that would be a fantastic effort from Clivati, and hopefully we see him improve as this championship goes on.
It's good to have a Flavio back in Formula 1. I miss the old Flavio a lot. Even though he was a cheater, but I miss him. He was a he was a character. Let's say.
You can say that again, yeah.
36 lap in the books. Cameras on Alexandros Agivarnava in P6. So 49.9 for Orozco. Across the start-finish line right now. So he's finding a good rhythm. And Rasmussen is gaining a bit, but not what is required to come close to pose a threat to the lead of the race for Riccardo. He has to be careful, of course. Like we said, this track, for those that don't know it, this track is particularly harsh on track limits. So on other tracks you might be okay with putting wheels in the grass or using that as AstroTurf in corner exit. Not here. Here it is extremely tough on you. So that's why we say when you have 10, 15 incident points, you are very close to disaster, and you want to avoid it as much as possible.
Let's go. Running a little bit wide there. I think, was that all 4 wheels off the side? I'm not quite sure, but you don't want to be touching that AstroTurf. That's what you really want to avoid if you possibly can. Because we did see an incident earlier on for... Who was there? It was Calstani, wasn't it? He spun on the AstroTurf.
Yes.
So you don't want to risk it due to that, but also you can pick up 1x's for that as well. And yeah, it's a little bit of a Sunday drive. It doesn't look like he's pushing it right to the limits. Rasmussen's got to push a little bit more. And of course, I would say, Marco, it's been a little bit odd this race, because in terms of the strategy, Nicholas, I'd say, has been absolutely rock solid. I haven't seen him slide once out there, and he's barely dropped off whatsoever in any of his stints from his fastest lap time. And then you got Ricciardo, who's a little bit, a little bit more free, I'd say, in his driving. Made a couple of mistakes, maybe a couple of off tracks, and has had a little bit more drop off from the tyres. And yet it's Nicholas who's doing the two stop, and Ricciardo doing the one stop. I would have thought it'd be the other way around.
Yeah. And I mean, all of these drivers, I mean, yeah, some of them are, veterans of the car, but others are relatively new. So the good thing about, running in a league, you can own your craft, especially as the more you go into the season. And I think they are going to discover their limits with the car and their abilities in order to, how long they can make the tires last. They will be able to learn the better strategies, and maybe later in the season he will be able to, I'm talking about Rasmussen, of course, he will be able to contend for a race win using his better strategy.
Furlich with a fantastic move there around the outside of Arjun and Vara. I don't know if that was my screen, but that was quite a slide there from Furlich, and he might still be under pressure though from Alexandros, who I'm not sure what his straight line speed is like, but we're about to find out, I think, because he's going to get the slipstream down and then up. Eau Rouge, trying to get as close as possible. And we ride on board with him right now. A little bit of energy recovery slightly for Furlich. Nearly getting a 1x there was Harsh Navarre, and straight away trying to break the toe is Luke Furlich. He knows if he can just hang on down into Lake Hume, he might be able to pull away, and the gap was big enough that Harsh Navarre could not attack. But hopefully we'll see this move go down to the final few stages. Both guys seemingly trying to keep it within the track limits still, just trying to manage their tyres at this point. Both on one stoppers. Not sure if it's been bought them, but yeah, we'll see how this one turns out.
No, a quick word also for Alexandros, because we've seen him on Apex, as you can see on the bottom right hand of your screen, the pit stop strategies. Thank you to Scott Newton on the cameras. He's been racing on this channel in the latter part of the last season, when we showed the official iRacing Grand Prix Series. So I think he's getting a good feel for the car also, like we were saying with Nicolas and all the other relatively new guys on the car. So, I mean, this is a very, very tough car to master, and it is the most complex car on, the LMP1s are also very, very tough, but I think they are a bit easier to master. The Formula 1 car is, because they are very easy to drive in a sense. I mean, they are easy to drive, the LMP1s, but very tough to, bring to the limit. This car is tough even if you take it out for a spin, and just go at a normal pace. You will have trouble to complete a lap. So it's really a car that requires you to be dedicated and to have a lot of practice and a lot of patience, because sometimes you will find yourself cursing at the car because it seemingly snaps for no reason, or you are slow, very, very slow, and you don't know what you're doing wrong. So the more these guys race, the more they get better, and it's fantastic for us that are watching. It's going to be nice to see the progress that these guys make throughout the season.
Yeah, of course, we've also got the fixed setup series as well on iRacing now, of course. That was kind of how this series was born. This series is open setup, of course, and of course, if you're interested in joining this series, certainly do. There's a post, I think, on the MP4-30 forums, and yeah, if you fancy giving it a go, then do certainly sign up. But of course, yeah, as Marcus said, it is an incredibly difficult car to drive. Thankfully, this fixed setup series maybe going to get a few more drivers involved, and certainly gives them a chance at least to hone their craft. But in this series, very much almost the qualifiers for the qualifying series. I think it's a great resource, and also for a lot of drivers just to you know, practice setups if they prefer an open league rather than a fixed setup league as well. Furlich pulling away from Hajnavar seemingly now. Earlier on, Alexandros had really good pace, especially in the opening stages, but Furlich since then has seemingly been able to come back at him, and you can see the gap now up to 1.4 seconds between the two of them. Apart from that, pretty much no battles going on out there. The closest other fight is Kalistani versus Canavas, but that's 9 seconds, and of course Orozco 12 seconds ahead of Rasmussen, still closing in on his second race victory of the season. Did lose 2.2 seconds on that last lap to his rival, but yeah, with just a handful of laps to go, doesn't look like it's going to be enough.
Yes, it is of course expected that the more you go into the race and the more the gaps get a little bit bigger, but I think we saw a very good race today, Sam. The problem we had, I think, that we lost a couple of protagonists in the mid part of the race, especially Talmon, who was going to be a threat, I think, to the podium positions. Also, we got word from David Cadmore, the first retiree of the race. He had a screen freeze, so very, very bad luck for him. He was out almost immediately. But apart from that, of course, we are seeing some big gaps now. But like I said, the first part of the race was fantastic, and too bad we lost. I mean, we could have had a fantastic battle for the podium. But, you know, mistakes, you pay for them. So Aurelien, he was a bit dejected in the chat. He said he made a stupid mistake, but I can tell him that, I mean, I've seen many good drivers getting caught out by the Rouge corner, both in iRacing and in real life. Luckily, here we don't face the consequences of a crash there. I remember reading when in 1993, Alex Zanardi had a very bad crash with Rouge, and in his book he says that the doctors told him in the hospital that it was like falling from the 7th floor of a building. So we only suffer bruised egos on iRacing when we crash at Rouge, luckily. But like we were saying before, Jacques Villeneuve, world champion, crashed there. A lot of fantastic drivers went into the wall in Rouge, and it's quite easy with these cars. They are so easy to get in an unstable condition. You hit a curve the wrong way, you slide a bit. So also yesterday in the World Championship we saw a couple of crashes at Rouge. So, you know, can make a mistake. You work on the mistake, make sure it doesn't happen again, and come back stronger the next time. 10 seconds the gap right now in the lead. 3 laps left for Orozco.
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult circuits in the world, particularly in a 100% race like this. 44 laps having to drive for, you know, 1 hour 20 in these conditions. Not an easy job whatsoever. I am just looking to see where the next race is, and it is at Kota. So it's following the Real Life Championship, and actually that will be the afternoon of the Circuit of the Americas race at Texas in real life. So that will be very good. That will be 66% once again. Then we've got a fantastic calendar generally. We've then got Suzuka, Road America, Monza, Montreal, and Interlagos, where really the real life championship ought to finish, but it doesn't. But in this championship, it does, and that will be on the 16th of December. But certainly taking a commanding lead in the championship, seemingly at the end of this race, will be Ricardo Roscoe's. Marco was saying 10 seconds. The gap, it has just gone down below that recently, but only 1.2 seconds faster for Nicholas Rasmussen he really needed. Consistently close to 2 seconds a lap in this final stint. It's been averaging at about 1.25 seconds instead. So it doesn't look like he is going to be able to put much pressure on his rival in the end. But certainly Roscoe, I think, is going to qualify for the World Championship Grand Prix Series next season anyway, Mark. Okay? But Nicholas Rasmussen, like I said earlier on right at the start of the show, you know, nearly qualified last season when there were only 10 spots available, remember? 20 spots available this season. I think he's a pretty much a nailed-on driver, I think, to make it through. As long as he doesn't have a horrendous piece of luck and as long as he can commit plenty of time to it, he's a driver who certainly ought to be in the World Championship Series.
Yes, I think he does, and I think he will be able to qualify. Roscoe is going to have a couple of very, very scary final laps because he is sitting on 15 incident points. So he doesn't have a big margin for mistake. 60 next for Arjun sorry. So he's going to be careful as well. So Roscoe's got 2 incident points to spare. That's why I think he's lifting a bit. Ajivernava is, I think he also let off a bit on the pressure on Fairlich because he's getting very, very close to disqualification. So let's keep an eye on Roscoe and see if he is able to finish this final lap and a half without making 2 mistakes.
Well, Hajinvara just did a 2-minute 5.2. So I don't know what's going on with Hajinvara now. Did he have a poor sector? I'm looking at sector times now. And I can't see anything. No, well, those 6 times for me at least don't add up. So, yeah, I don't know what happened to Alexandros. I assume he must have had some kind of spin, but of course he's right on the limit of the instant limits. He's very probably quite pleased to get away with that. With Roscoe now starting his final lap of the race, 8 seconds clear of Nicholas Rasmussen. You can see him in the background, but Rasmussen will be hoping he was a hell of a lot closer than that. Another 1.2 seconds being taken out on that last lap. But yeah, it's going to be quite comfortable in the end for Roscoe as he yeah, embarks on this final 2/3 of the lap.
Still following very, very closely the lines of Roscoe, as he is, of course, taking it extremely easy. Doesn't need to push, doesn't need to risk. He can take it at a Sunday drive pace and still come out with a race win. So there is no need to risk getting unnecessary off tracks.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely easy for Ricardo Roscoe in the end. He can, yeah, like you say, just completely relax. The positive sim racing driver hasn't got any traffic
60
to deal
next
with either.
for Roscoe. 60 next, sorry
wow.
Sam. He has to be very, very clean in these final few corners. He doesn't want to destroy his race. I think he should be in the clear, man, but that was cutting it very, very close for Ricardo.
Definitely. Nicholas will be annoyed that he couldn't put a little bit more pressure on and force him to at least drive one more good lap. But all 44 laps, seemingly for Ricardo Roscoe, have been good enough. He's got a 6-second lead as he rounds the final chicane, and he's going to take race 2 of the iRacing Grand Prix Championship. Ricardo Roscoe, a superb race victory here at Spa-Francorchamps, with Nicholas Rasmussen finishing in 2nd place. It was a good effort from Nicholas. Couldn't quite put the pressure on Ricardo in those closing stages, but you can certainly see those two having quite a few duels in the closings in the remaining races in this championship. Ronaldo Augusto, absolutely clean drive from him. That's really textbook how you do it. He had the right strategy in the end. The 2-stopper worked very well for him. As he rounds the final corner, he'll take home that podium place with his teammate Mate Kalastani finishing seemingly in 4th position.
So the other cars are coming to the line. Aji Varnava, cameras on him, 16x. So he has to be very, very careful. Doesn't need to push. The car behind him is 1 lap down. So really not...
So Furlich's just running very slow just ahead of him. Furlich just did a 2-minute 2, which is very slow. That's 10 seconds off the pace. And he's still, the gap's still going down. It's just gone below 5 seconds. I'm just thinking, has Furlich got an issue here? Or is he cruising along, almost trying to taunt Alexandros Hajnova? That'd be very harsh if he is. The gap at the start of this lap was about 7 seconds. It's down to 3.5 now. He is just taunting him. This is absolutely horrendous. You know, cat cruelty in some ways. Luka Furlich, though, will take home 6th place just ahead of Haj Navarra.
You know, or maybe he was running out of fuel, I don't know, because he was taking it very, very easy.
The way he broke into that final corner, I must say, that was very much, I'm going to let you get as close as possible, but I'm not going to give you it.
Everyone is past the start-finish line, so we had 8 finishers in the end, and several retirements. It was a tough race, but in the end, I think Orozco was a deserved winner. So, good job, and second win in a row, and looking good for the championship, I think, as I think we are about to have the final race results on the screen.
Yes, and as you said, Marco, Ricardo Orozco with his second race victory of the season. Nicholas Rasmussen in second place. 40 seconds off the lead was Rinaldo Augusto. But, like I said earlier on, a very solid performance from him from third on the grid. There's Matteo Calistani in fourth. Bruno Canovas, very good drive from him as well in fifth with Luka Furlich. 100 seconds off the lead in the end, but on the lead lap, it's not a bad effort from Furlich with Hajnova only just behind. He was on 16x by the end. Flavio Clevati, I think he got 0 incidents, I guess. He was running, very passively out there was Flavio, but full credit to him. That's a very good effort, and he finishes a very solid 8th place, 2 laps down, but well done for him. Jose Ringrose crashed. Jorge Di Yazo. We didn't actually see what happened to Jorge, unfortunately. He was running in the top 8, I think, at one point, but I think he may have had a crash as well. Marco Numela, he had to tow to the pits. Aurelien Talmont, he crashed at Eau Rouge. Manuel Hoyer crashed at Eau Rouge as well, about 5 seconds after the prior. David Cudmore, unfortunately, had a screen freeze right at the start of the race, and Michele Constantini, unfortunately, did not take the start of the race.
But it was very, very instrumental for us because he was the, race director that told us all the incidents. So
okay.
He did a good job, and just like at the Nürburgring, he was basically not doing his job because we had no penalties. No nothing, no safety cars. So for the second race in a row, the race stewards had basically the free afternoon. Whilst we, the commentators, are doing the hard job in the commentary.
I know, right? Oh, dear. Unfortunately, no one's wants an interview with us. So that's a bit sad. But whilst maybe some person... Oh, here we go. Ricardo Orozco on cue. And Ricardo, really well done up there. That was a fantastic performance, but it did get a little bit nervy at the end there. 16 incidents in the end. How big an issue was that during the race?
Hey guys, to be honest, I only saw the message that we had an incident limit after I crossed the line.
Oh man.
I didn't really know it. I think in the first race, I remember that we had 17 incident limits, but then I was racing and then I was collecting incidents, and I didn't see the limit at the top of my screen, so I wasn't aware if it was there or not. So I wasn't so mindful of it, but now I know that I was quite risky. But the conditions out there were very, very bad, to be honest. When you have cold weather with extensive usage and high humidity, I think it's worse than hot weather, so it was quite tricky.
Yeah, so the grip was, of course, quite low. What about the tyres? Did that affect the tyres too much and cause maybe the one stopper to be maybe a little bit of a disadvantage compared to the two?
Yeah, maybe yes. I can't say because I didn't do two, obviously, but at the final 4 laps of each stint that I did, the car was really bad to drive, and I was like almost 3 seconds off pace. So, but once again, it's good practice. That's what I'm in here for. So just try the car, try to drive with old tires. It's always try to improve. So it's good. Yeah.
And of course, you were quite evenly matched with Nicholas. Certainly in that first stint, he seemed to really be kind of maintaining the gap to you. Do you think you two are going to have some close battles later on in the season?
Yeah, hopefully. I think he drove a very good race with good lap time. So yeah, hopefully he keeps on improving and we can have some nice battles. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, Circuit of the Americas coming up divides opinions. Yeah, what's your thoughts on it?
I like it. I think people with one monitor can suffer a little bit. So luckily I have 3, and I like the track. It's quite technical. It has fast flowing corners, and then you have some slow speed corner section. It's always tricky to set up the car. But yeah, I'll just now we have 2 weeks. It's good because we have a week break, because I was having races every week with the WCS. Now we can have a little bit of a chill. So I'll take my time to practice.
Yeah, definitely. We certainly look forward to seeing you back then. And before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, thanks to you guys for broadcasting. Thanks for everyone who showed up for the race. Yeah, thanks for Positive Sim Racing, our main sponsor, University is about the first, and all of the teammates. Thanks, guys. Have a nice Sunday.
Thanks, Ricardo. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
See you. Bye.
So I think that's pretty much us rounded off now. Don't think we're going to get any more interviews with the drivers, but of course, yes, in 2 weeks' time we will be back at Circuit of the Americas for round 3 of the championship. We'll see if Ricardo Roscoe can make it 3 out of 3. And later on as well, we've also got the BSR Porsche Cup, the Immortal Porsche Cup. So certainly tune in for that. We've had 30 car grids or something for both of the rounds so far this season. So certainly tune in. That will be quite an event, I'm sure. But for now, from me, from Marco, and from Scott, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you next time.